Hey, welcome back to Two Super Guys Trade Stocks. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Vinny. And today I'm going to tell Dylan why he is a complete and utter idiot and completely is missing the boat on the Apple Vision Pro and how this is going to change the world and make this $2.7 trillion company seem cheap.
It will not.
Two Super Guys Trade Stocks.
All right. For those of you who are like unfamiliar, Dylan and I, neither of us are tech guys, but we're both investors. You know, we're both kind of in the Apple ecosystem a little bit, but like not diehard fanboys, I will say. Apple has been my largest, most successful investment in my portfolio personally. So, like, you know, I want to kind of give you my take about hearing the Apple Vision Pro announcement this week and some of the stuff that I think about what this could mean for the future of Apple. And, you know, Dylan and I were discussing this offline. We figured we were so far off on like our agreement on what this could be for the future that we figured we'd make a video out of this whole thing. And you know, I just want to say, you sounded like the people that said when the first iPhone came out that they missed the keyboard. That's what you sounded to me.
Yeah, okay. I already have a problem with that. One, we very seldom completely disagree on something. Like the last time was Intel versus AMD. Winner, by the way. I don't think this is a good idea at all. But I disagree with the keyboard thing. I think the buttons would be better to not have if it works properly, and it did. It
did.
I get what you're saying.
It did indeed. You know, but like, you know, major criticism, right, for the iPhone when it came out here was price, right? It was, you know, it was subsidized by the manufacturer, you know, because you got to get or by the kind of carrier for this 2-year contract. You're still paying $500, $600, depending on the model you got, which was $750 adjusted for today, and that was with a subsidy.
What were the prices of Blackberries?
I do not know at the time.
Okay.
I didn't adopt an iPhone until the 3rd generation, to be honest, so I can't really say.
Got it.
But, you know, I want to say, like, you know, we did not anticipate the future of what this device could entail as far as like having the platform built around it. There was a lot of functionality that wasn't here in the early iPhone days, and it came on board later on. And I think that's what you're seeing is, you know, the original iPhone version of the actual, you know, as they called it, spatial computing. They didn't even call it AR or VR, if you kind of notice that in their you know, documentation.
Okay.
So who could predict the future, right? What ultimately happened out of this phone that was criticized and, you know, was lacking a keyboard, or basic functions that other phones had at the time? They now dominate the global smartphone market share, 30%.
100% agree. Once again, I was not mad at the keyboard thing, right? I had what was that phone, the Kick, where the screen kicks out? And I had that. But when the iPhone came out, as long as it worked well and it tracked your fingers, that's preferable. It's a smaller phone. So that makes sense. It was a revolutionary product. They deserve every dollar that's come their way for that.
Yeah. 52% of the revenue from the most recent quarter. Right here. $400 billion in revenue last year. 52% of that was from iPhone sales last year.
Yeah,
the other thing that, like, you know, Apple is fantastic at is then leveraging the device into this services revenue. You know, that's why this part's been growing so much faster, has much fatter revenues, profit margins. So, you know, once you have this device out there and you produce this market-leading device, that I think it's much easier to leverage it into longer-term profits, right? It's the ultimate goal of the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's an awesome product. I mean, I'm using the AirPods right now. To me, there is no AirPods for the price that are as good as this. It does, in my opinion.
Yeah, they just work. 82 million of those last year, by the way, you know. And then Apple Watch, 53 million. That's Apple Watch is their most recent major launch, which came out in 2014, and they sold 53 million of them last year.
Yeah. So I'm going to use this as a point to when the Apple Watch came out, it was not overpriced. People were paying $250 for a pedometer known as Fitbit. So it's important to throw in there. They essentially created a product that did everything that a Fitbit couldn't for like the same price. You know.
And they had the Apple ecosystem behind it, which is, you know, the walled-off garden that makes investors money and makes consumers really frustrated. I understand. But, you know, also, like, this was their first foray into a world which they had no kind of business in, if you will. Like, I'm a watch guy. I'm not even wearing one right now, but you know, all the watchmakers are watch companies are, you know, dwarfed by Apple. You know, Rolex people that estimate they make maybe $1 million a year to think about that. So Apple made 53 times the number of watches they made last year.
Yeah, that's impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah. And then when you look at the wearable market share, look at that, 43% of it dominated by them. This is just for actual like smartwatches. So another thing, they launch a product, they dominate the market, right?
I got one. I was late.
Yeah, I don't have one actually. This I think is actually where it shines, right? The spatial computing. Like what is this is like a battle station, right? Like this is how people that are really enthusiastic about having multiple monitors and workflow in like the modern kind of world. This is where that kind of Apple Pro Vision Pro is going to shine. Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at this on a dual monitor setup, and I actually put a picture in here. Basically, this is basically what I work on. I work in radiology, so
yeah.
This is a double monitor here in the middle, but 4 different screens surrounding you is pretty standard amongst the radiology world. This is a way prettier setup, but right. I think that's where this device is going to be used. And in case you were curious, the radiology setup here, something like this, granted, this is very, very detailed monitors, very specialized monitors. You're talking about $15,000, right?
True, but it's also because there's the word medical in front of it, and then backed up by patents and lawyers. So I mean that will never be
patents, huh? You want to talk patents for a second, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna skip past this slide and come back to it here. Guess how many patents were filed during this development?
Well, 5,000. I would not have guessed 5,000, but that's a lot of patents.
Yeah, that is a lot of goddamn patents. That's why I'm saying you're seeing the first iteration, right? They punched at the high end because this is what they're saying that the world would look like, where you could have all these multiple monitors open like on your desk, in this virtual workspace or spatial computing, if you will. And I think that would be like a major use case early on for this technology, where you'd have this ability to have these kind of screens that are adjustable and resizable, and for people that are using high end kind of computer setups, this could be something that they use to replace their kind of workplace, their work setup.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you work more than 2 hours?
Yes. So the 2-hour battery life, that's once you detach from the tether.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you could stay with a tether and still be able to do that, which I think is much more reasonable.
I agree. That's actually not where I was going. Have you worn a VR headset for 2 hours?
No, I have the MetaQuest 2. And then that one, I want to say the battery life is probably around the same window, maybe no more than an hour. But I know you're going from fatigue standpoint.
Yeah,
the fatigue with this, I don't think is going to be quite the same because the actual monitors are so much better. They're talking about better than 4K resolution from what people are relaying that they've encountered with this. Apple didn't put out a spec on that I saw.
It's still a half inch from your eyes.
It is. And it's more than 120 hertz refresh rate is what people are saying as well. So yeah, I think it's not going to give you eye fatigue the same way that a lower end VR or AR headset would. That's why I think that's less likely to happen.
Okay, we're gonna be pending on that because we won't find that out for I guess a while. So
yeah. At least 6 months, exactly. But 5,000 patents. Meaning, like I said, they put this product out here, but there is so much technology that was involved in this. They talk about, so I have the MetaQuest 2, and you have to use the actual controllers with this. You don't have to with the Apple one. The tracking is so good that you can just use your hands. You can also use your voice to command the thing. So it's like almost integrated with basically just the display that you need to be wearing.
So the hand tracking is impressive. You cannot use it in games. That's going to be important. It will not work, right? Because you're going to be doing more than just this.
Mm-hmm.
So it is completely unusable for the vast majority of games that are created.
Yeah, so I noticed that games were very much absent from their announcement. I think it's really more targeted towards like the high-end kind of production computer user. That's why it's got the Pro moniker. I think that's the audience that they're targeting with this. Is people from a workflow perspective.
100%. I think they created a gaming product, they created a product that only gamers buy and are hoping that other people buy it because gamers will not buy this.
Yeah. No, I think it's got certainly utility. And I think we're going to see it eventually transition over time where that technology is going to evolve, and then they're actually going to be able to introduce it at a lower cost. We're going to see the SE version eventually, but we're going to see that continual refinement of it, improvement of it, because this is their first foray into the realm, and it's already significantly better than what Meta, which I also own, and I'm a big Meta kind of bull as far as value wise. They're still well ahead of them.
I would disagree with that too, but because they're doing completely different things, right? Meta is for gaming, and they created a VR headset that's not for gaming. Now they did say there is 100 arcade games that's going to be available, but if you look at like Apple actually has a surprising amount of revenue from gaming, but it's from Candy Crush, and like no one's going to buy a $3,500 headset and play Candy Crush with it.
You say that, but I think it'd be awesome.
Okay.
This is like one other thing I wanted to highlight real quick. This is Apple's R&D budget over time. This is while they were developing this product, right? $26 billion in 2022. Compare that to the entire revenue for AMD here, $23 billion, or Nvidia, $26 billion over the last 12 months. Literally, Apple's R&D budget over the last year was more than the revenue of either of these two companies that are arguably household names, or at least investor names.
So I don't know what the point you're trying to make there for the headset, because like Intel, these numbers are a little bit iffy because the last time I looked was 2 years, but Intel's R&D budget is essentially 1 year's worth of AMD for 1 quarter's worth of Intel, and look at what AMD puts out versus look at what Intel puts out.
Well, that's the difference between Apple and Intel as far as like their company culture. Apple immediately came to the kind of market with what I would argue is like a leading product as far as their ability to control it and their hand kind of signaling processing there. So I think they're put the money to much more effective use. Like I said, remember 5,000 patents that they incurred.
I agree. It's a lot of patents.
Yeah. Granted, Nikola had like 20. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, let me see your presentation. I want to see what your counterpoints are on the bear thesis of this whole thing.
Full disclosure, I think this is a terrible product. I don't think this is a good idea. I think that this is going to tank, and I think it's going to have a wonderful first 2 quarters. Okay. Because I think that they're fighting against themselves. I'm gonna explain that point. The cost to make, now this is guessed, but right, that this is we don't actually know is the point of this. It's just by people who broke the components down and how much it would cost, and like multiple different sources for Apple's say $1,500 to $1,600 to make, which is why the $3,500 price target is insane. And then MetaQuest, Apple's is incredible, but MetaQuest also only costs $440 to make, and it's selling for $999.
Okay, so significantly more income on the front end, but like I think that misses out on the fact that Apple is trying to get you into the ecosystem and eventually make more money from the services revenue. I think they should probably.
What are the services that you're talking about that will
eventually App Store?
Okay, no, that makes sense. I don't know how many people are going to buy this in the first place. All right, now let's just look at what happened during the presentation. All right, these are people who love Apple. Did you see the video of this?
I'm not sure which video you're going to show me, but I have seen the stock reaction and some of that sort of stuff.
I didn't put it in here because it's kind of hard to hear the audio, but essentially they show the headset. Everyone's like, oh, cool. And then they show the price and they're like, oh, just the whole audience was like, oh, okay. All right. It's a little bit iffy. And it spawned these wonderful memes, right? So for $3,500, the box better have $2,500 in it. It's fantastic.
I love it.
The one above your head, for $3,500, I will personally come to your house and move your couch closer to the TV. It's pretty solid. And then this other one on the right here, she had to sell everything. Do you notice in the ad, there's just nothing else in her house? It's just that.
Completely sparse.
And then should I buy a used car or like an Apple Vision Pro? I don't know. Interesting.
You could visit a lot more places with the Apple Vision Pro, okay?
Okay, that's what they're hoping. So at launch, this was during their presentation, there's going to be 100 Apple Arcade games. Like I said, these are games that have no one plays now on a VR headset, even if they have the capability to, because they're pointless. They're 2D. It doesn't work. It's just Candy Crush. And they put a weird amount of emphasis on you can watch Disney Channel or Disney app. Like you're paying $3,500 for a TV that you can only watch. Only you. No one else can watch it for 2 hours.
Agreed. That
plugged in.
It does not make sense. I think over time, their partnership with Disney, you will see some content that is more targeted towards this ecosystem and the formats of like an Apple Vision Pro compared to like, just a normal TV experience.
I think Disney just paid them a bunch of money to say this, because this is in no way being like, oh, I guess I'll spend $3,500 to watch Moana on a VR headset. I don't get it.
But like The Rock will appear in your bedroom.
Yeah, well, that'd be pretty cool. Are you familiar with Apple being a bully and extremely hostile towards game developers?
Yes, the Epic Games lawsuit. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Epic Games. There's hundreds of them. A lot of people, you have to do illegal things or break or install Microsoft on your Apple computer to be able to play games in it, which, by the way, if you've ever had a MacBook and played like StarCraft and then bought a gaming PC, I didn't even know that StarCraft looked the way it did until I got a gaming PC. It's terrible. It's not even close. It's not comparable. This is a product that is made for gaming. Everyone who buys a VR headset has only bought it for gaming. There's no such other applications. It's gaming or entertainment. And they're using this product as of now. You're correct. But as of now, that is who buys this at a much smaller price point. Okay? And the people who are going to buy this are people who love Apple, I would assume, and they're going to use it as a computer. So you're just going to supplant people who buy MacBooks for people who buy VR headsets. The Apple computer is already $3,000, right? Depending on which model. No one's going to buy
6, 7 for some of them, and then the monitor is separate.
There you go. So no one's going to own that and then not use it and just get a VR headset. No one's going to have both. So they're creating competition for themselves by using a product that was created for gaming and entertainment and using it for internet browsing and work. You're not going to do both.
I still don't see it as a gaming entertainment first kind of tool. I think this is really designed for that professional workflow.
No, you're right. You're right.
They're going after.
I'm talking about historically, people who have bought VR headsets. It is for game and entertainment. That is like if you I should have put it in here, but if you look up the top 10 apps downloaded by VR, they're games. They're games or entertainment, right?
Beat Saber by far and away.
Beat Saber was like third. I think Half-Life was number 1 or something. Wow. They're only going to hurt their own numbers because they're essentially saying you can use this computer closer and disregard other computers. But no one with a PC gaming whatever is going to buy this and then use it as their computer. That makes sense?
I see what you're saying. I think they're trying to invent an entirely new market is kind of what I'm saying. I don't see that as per se cannibalizing. I think that if you could afford a $6,000-$7,000 tower for your workstation, you're going to also want to have one of these. It's going to be a separate kind of device that you're also going to use as part of like your workflow.
But they accomplish the exact same thing. They're no different. There's no difference. The only difference is you can move Windows away and do this. That's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm thinking more like along the lines of, say, like rendering a 3D model in terms of like, say, if you're an architect, you can render a model of a home on your actual workstation and then be able to like walk through it with your Apple Vision Pro like setup and be able to like show clients what it would be like as far as like the design of like a home.
You can do that on a MetaQuest. It looks the same. I mean,
I've never tried it on that.
I understand that $3,500 you're paying is for cutting edge technology. I'm not gonna like. It looks like an Iron Man movie. Like it looks really cool. Absolutely. Yeah. But what I'm gonna predict here is that they're gonna blow out their initial projections for the first 2 quarters. Right. All the techies are gonna buy it. They're like, oh, what can I do? What can I do? And then people are gonna kind of get bored doing this, and then they're just gonna go back to either a computer or they're gonna sell it for a third party. And people are gonna realize that kind of after the novelty wears off. There's not a huge market for people paying $3,500 to move windows around. I'm oversimplifying. There's a lot of cool tech in it, but that's essentially what you do. It's just a computer screen that only you can see.
Agreed. It is indeed a large portion of it. Some of the other stuff that they showed, like use case wise, was almost a little bit creepy. Did you see the ability to like record in stereoscopic vision along with like the LiDAR function, where you can like basically save a memory of like a time or event that you attended?
Yeah. Look, real quick. That seems, one, it's creepy as hell. You're right.
Yes.
But also, if you look away from that, that means that there's someone just walking around the house with a VR headset on and like fake eyes. No, that's not going to happen, right? Google Glasses failed for that reason. People don't want to just be automatically recorded just like without their consent, right? Now you can say like, oh, this is recording families, but now you're no longer in the moment. You're looking through this weird camera at like your kid doing something. It's weird.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's a good thought too. I was thinking more about like the idea when I'm like an old man, I can actually watch my memories again. How cool would that be?
But then your memory is going to be of you not participating in the memory and just filming it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be alone anyways. That's exactly how you end up. So that's how it works.
Fair enough. Anyways, I think this is a failure. I can't picture people buy it. I could be completely wrong because Apple's logo's on it. And, just because of that, people are going to buy it. I don't think there's a lot of use other than looking like Iron Man for an hour. I don't know.
All right. My final point I would say is I don't see this. I don't think it'll be a failure. I think what you're seeing is a beginning of the next evolution in the kind of interaction between people and computing.
Right. Also, the problem is just like Nvidia comes out with a GPU every year that's the most powerful GPU ever. The next iteration of MetaQuest will have all this stuff. It's going to have everything, right? Minus you can do all the patents you want. But in terms of like what the actual capabilities are, there's always other ways to build something, right? Like
True.
There's cars and there's a million different brands of cars. They'll do the same thing. They get you from there to there. MetaQuest is going to have everything that everything that worked that Apple has in a year.
Okay. I don't know if it'll be quite that aggressive. I think Apple will still have, the kind of better interface. I think the Apple. I haven't used ever the Meta Pro, but I think Apple with this device looks like it's going to blow away the kind of seamless operation of the device compared to the Meta Pro.
All right. Well, also, the biggest thing about the Apple conference is that they're getting rid of the autocorrect for ducking. That's huge.
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 We can both agree on that point.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
See you next time.